I'm going to lead off today's video by making a statement that I'm sure the vast majority of my audience is going to disagree with initially, but hear me out. I have a good basis for making this statement. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine is the first actual war the world has seen in 50 years. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are scratching their heads going, wait a minute, what about Iraq? What about Afghanistan? Those wars were not peer-to-peer. The U.S. went in and clobbered those primary forces in a matter of weeks. And after that, it was just years of playing whack-a-mole with insurgent groups. That's not what war is. What's going on in Ukraine right now is very different. And people are asking questions. Why aren't we seeing the video footage out of Ukraine like we saw for the last 10 or 20 years? Well, that's real easy because it's real war. And even places like CNN and Fox aren't going to show it because it's ugly and it's dirty and it's nasty and it doesn't allow for virtue signaling. There's a scripture in the Bible. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of your heart, as unto Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will, doing services to the Lord and not to men. For the last 25 years, the video game generation has built up this expectation of what war should look like on video. It's a form of virtue signaling, good guys and bad guys. For those of you that don't know what this means, the term means to proclaim one's standards, morals, or beliefs in any type of public setting so that everyone knows your moral standing on a specific topic. It is done by a person to prove how much better they are than everyone else and not done out of the want or desire to fix a problem. How many people are we seeing now with the yellow and blue Ukrainian flag saying, oh, I stand with, I stand with, I stand with. And this nonsense, taking vodka that's already paid for, by the way, and walking out in the street in front of cameras and pouring it out as if that's going to fix anything in the Ukraine or that's going to hurt Russia's feelings. Instead of doing something that might, if it's just crazy to me, you could take the vodka and you could raffle it off. And if somebody wanted to go out and pour it out in the street, and you could take the money you raised from a raffle and send it to the people of Ukraine if that's what you felt you wanted to do. But this is just virtue signaling now. Julius Caesar said, it is easier to find men who will volunteer to die than to find those who are willing to endure pain with patience. There is a story out now, out of the Ukraine, that should make everybody wake up and go, oh, wait a minute. Hold on, are we on the right side? Are we really on the right side here? You see, I did this series of videos about a week or two ago where I talked about this issue with this TV series Colony. And a lot of people gave me a lot of flack, a lot of pushback. Oh, that would never happen. Oh, that's terrible and horrible. I would never allow something like that to happen. Basically, the idea is this. This guy, they have this happy family. There's this occupation going on, but they're surviving. You know, they're making it. They're bartering and trading. But one of their sons is lost on the side of a wall that they aren't on. And so this guy decides to go off and be a cowboy and try to get the kid back. Doesn't tell her about it. Gets himself arrested. She has to go deal with some seedy people. And of course, seedy people have seedy demands and things happen and a conversation has to be had and it ends up quite ugly. And I'll just leave this to your imagination from the images. The whole point I was trying to make is this. The entire thing could have been avoided with a conversation, with one conversation. Imagine all of the prepping that people have been doing for the last 20 years. The beans, the bullets, the Band-Aids, the ammunition, the medical stuff, the generators, the supplies, all that stuff. But they've neglected learning how to communicate properly and being close enough to those around them to know what they're thinking without actually having to express it. This is what we teach over at the Patreon channel for $1 a month. And believe me, lots of people have showed up there. You'll see them down in the comment section. They will tell you your $1 refundable per month will give you an insight into military, psychological operations, warfighter tactics that will give you an edge. Now, what's the story I'm talking about? 28 February 2022, looters to be shot on the spot, Ukrainian mayors warn. Harsh warnings amid rising numbers of incidents across several locations. Now, they're not talking about Russian soldiers coming in and looting things. They're talking about Ukrainians looting other Ukrainians' businesses. Law enforcement officers in 2 Ukrainian towns have been authorized to shoot looters on the spot, the mayors have announced. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are going, well, that's right. That's what we should have done. Just wait until you hear what the definition of looting is. A significant number of looting incidents have been reported across the country since the beginning of Russia's military operation. Zhytomyr Mayor Sergei Sokomlin, I hope I had that right, in a Facebook video address mentioned an attempted robbery of a store in one area of the city. His quote, "I'm warning everyone, the police, the National Guard, the territorial defense units, they all received orders not to detain. They can just shoot on the spot. There will be no looting in the city." The following day, the head of Okhtyrka territorial community, Pavel Kuzmenko, issued a similar warning, saying that looting had spread in the town's private sector. He called on people to immediately report any suspicious incidents. Looting results in shooting on the spot, Kuzmenko said. Now, you ready for this? Time to sit down and have that moment. He also underlined that store owners increasing food prices would also be considered looting. Meaning that if somebody's charging more than what, say, the police officer thinks that they should charge, that person can be shot. Chechens will come and you'll make a profit from them. You see, this is what's going on. This is why you're not going to see pictures out of this conflict. It's not because it isn't going on. It's because there's a whole new paradigm of war that is real, by the way, that is ugly and dirty and nasty and mean and seamy, that doesn't really jive well with the video game generation definition of war. Oh, and by the way, in a bid to strengthen their armed forces, Ukrainian authorities, amongst other measures, decided to release inmates and criminal suspects with military backgrounds. Golly, where have we heard this before? Releasing inmates and criminal suspects with military backgrounds and handing them rifles and arming them. So just increasing your prices to something that might allow you to keep more stuff on the shelf longer can now result in you being ended on the spot in Ukraine. It is ordained in the eternal constitution of things that men of intemperate minds cannot be free. Their passions forge their fetters. You see, it's not going to matter who wins. They're all going to be in chains. And those of you who think that that's just not going to happen, we mistakenly assume that bodily survival has a higher precedence than ego survival. This is simply not generally true. Ego will happily destroy body for its own sake. And once again, I'm going to reiterate this. It is easier to find men who will volunteer to die than to find those who are willing to endure pain with patience. See, I go back to this because it was bad enough that people saw the events like, oh man, she should have never had to do that to get him released. That's horrible. She should have just let him rot in prison. What if it was a continuing thing? What if the agreement wasn't just for the one-time release of her husband? What if it was an ongoing deal? Most men would lose their minds. Because this is what happens. A lot of people have glamorized what would happen if there were ever a Red Dawn invasion here. It's kind of funny, the Red Dawn people that thought that, the Russians coming here was the big threat, when really the biggest threat has been people of a certain political party. And we've seen this in the last 2 years, have we not? You see, they're all running around now pretending they're big heroes because of Biden and Ukraine. They're trying to give him a big win, understanding that there are no winners in war. And probably the only people out there right now who can vouch for what I'm saying about real war and how ugly it gets and how it's not really safe for the internet are those who served in Vietnam, those who served in World War II. Because this kind of stuff happens all the time. If they are ready to end looters and end shop owners who are charging too much, and remember, we're not talking about Russians versus Ukrainians here. We're talking about Ukrainians versus Ukrainians. How much worse do you think it's going to get? This is only not even a week. Not even a week. There are going to be some reporters go there and ask to leave immediately because of the PTSD that they're going to suffer. War is ugly. But if you want to get a hold of your mind so that you can understand how to deal with things, join us over at Patreon, $1 per month. It's even less than that, 3 pennies per day if you sign up for a year. And once again, sign up. If it's not for you, if you check out the training, we've got over a dozen videos just in the last couple of months. There's going to be a brand new one in the next 48 hours. And we also have historical videos going back 3 and 4 years. I think we have a total of over 100. If it's not for you, if you've checked out the training and it's just something beyond what you're ready to absorb right now, you can inbox me over there. And unlike YouTube, you can say, hey, I need that $1 back or that $2 back. There is a 90-day limit. That's the extent to which I can refund, 90 days. And I'll gladly do it. I go through virtually every other day and check and see if anybody has requested a refund. Done it for many people. So join us. We would like to have you. Would love to have you, actually. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.